before I forget, 15 minutes into this. Okay, it looks like we're getting the rest of the executive board in now, which is great. Terrific. All right, it is 6 o'clock. We have 40 people in the Zoom call. A majority of the Senate should be here. Welcome to the second meeting of the spring semester for the Student Government Association. It is February the 7th of 2022. Notable holidays. This Saturday is President Lincoln's birthday. This Sunday is the Super Bowl for the Rams versus the Bengals, and Monday is Valentine's Day. So if you are going to be anything like me and celebrating alone, love yourself because you deserve it. Roll call. Internal Affairs Director Malavika.
Arts and Sciences Student Council. Block School Student.
Lawrence Brooks IV, College of Arts and Science President.
Block School Student Association.
Block School Student Association, Kerrigan Rohaj, present.
Block School Student Association, Matt Slaney, President.
Collegiate Panhellenic Council.
Collegiate Panhellenic Council, Haley Prinz, present.
Conservatory Student Association.
Brett Boyer, CSA, present.
Graduate Student Council.
Graduate Student Council, Eli Fair, present.
Graduate Student Council, Rupak Tata, present.
Interfraternity Council. Medical School Advisory Council.
Medical School Advisory Council, Stephanie Kim, present.
School Advisory Council, Erica and Polly, present.
Multicultural Student Organization Council.
Nabil Abbas, Multicultural Student Organization Council, I'm here.
National Panhellenic Council. Pharmacy Student Council.
Pharmacy Student Council, Amy Janowski, present.
Pharmacy Student Council, Zach Painter, present.
School of Biological and Chemical Sciences Student Council.
School of Biological and Chemical Sciences Student Council, Christian Dang, present.
School of Biological and Chemical Sciences Student Council, Grayson Petrosinski, present.
School of Computing and Engineering Student Council.
School of Computing and Engineering Student Council, Reagan Dunn, present.
School of Computing and Engineering, Samantha Lewandowski, filling in for Truman.
School of Dentistry Student Council.
School of Dentistry Student Council, Alexandria Thomas, present.
School of Dentistry Student Council, Mackenzie Williams, present.
School of Education Council.
School of Education Student Council, Nicole Davich, present.
School of Education Student Council, Jessica Metter, present.
School of Law.
School of Law, McGregor Greenlee, present.
Sexuality and Gender Alliance Council.
Sexuality and Gender Alliance Council, Tatiana Taylor, present.
Student Athlete Advisory Council. Student Council of Nursing and Health Studies.
Nursing and Health Studies Student Council Joey Gamble, present.
Student of Nursing and Health Science Council Lizzie Johnson, present.
Senators at large.
Quinn Tran, Senator at Large, present.
Ziggy Redneck, Senator at Large, present.
Tanya Kumar, Senator at Large, present.
Natalie McCarthy, Senator at Large, present.
Okay, I believe we're at quorum.
Sorry, my stuff just like froze.
Dude, can you not hear us?
I can hear somebody. Malavika, you're muted for me.
She finished the.
Yeah, I just muted myself.
Yeah, sorry. I like lost internet and it came back. It was weird. Anyways, Duke Porter at large, present.
We've met quorum.
And did Senator Gott tell you of his presence, Malavika? He didn't chime in during conservatory because he didn't realize.
Yes, hello. Connor Gott, Conservatory Senator, present.
Okay,
Right.
I have you down now.
Terrific. All right. Do we have a call or a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
I motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Movement or minutes have been approved. All right. Today we have a guest speaker. Dr. Jennifer Lundgren, Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor of the College of Arts and Sciences with a PhD in clinical psychology from the University of Albany. I'm going to stop my share so that way you can do your speaking, Dr. Lundgren.
Thank you. Let me pull up my screen share. And all right. So I'm going to minimize you. So can you see, well, it really doesn't. I hope that you can see the main slide and I hope that the text is big enough. I cannot see all of you. So I have just a few slides to talk to you about a differential tuition project that all 4 campuses are working on, and then a one fee project that that UMKC is working on, and I want to get your feedback on it. So I will walk through these and then we can go into questions. And thank you for allowing me some time during your meeting tonight to present this to you, and importantly, to get your feedback on it. So there has been in the state of Missouri for quite a while, there was a law that capped increases in in state-funded institutions, that capped those increases with the consumer price index or inflation. And the governor has signed into law a new bill that essentially does away with that old model. And what it allows for is universities to transition to differential tuition models. Now, not all universities have to do that, but with this new law, universities either have to, and this is all at the undergraduate level, universities either have to have a traditional model whereby there's a baseline undergraduate tuition rate, and then there are course or unit or academic program fees that are added on to that. And that's the model that we have currently. And as you know, and I've talked to Tim and others of you, that sometimes this leads to a lot of confusion. So you might think you're signing up for a set of courses at a particular tuition rate, but you didn't realize that that course came with additional fees. Other examples of this are any of the courses in the School of Computing and Engineering whether those are computer science or engineering, they have a fee of $100 per credit hour. So there are lots of fees that add up, and then it gets really confusing. What am I really paying for, and what am I being charged? And so with the change in this state law, universities either have to have a traditional model or they have to switch to a differential tuition model. And it can't be program by program. So you can't decide, we're going to move to a differential model for some programs and keep traditional model for the other. So with that as context, the Board of Curators and System has asked each of the 4 University of Missouri campuses to move toward a differential tuition model. Now, we're each being allowed to design that differently, but really the goal of moving toward this differential tuition model is to recognize that different academic programs cost a different amount to deliver. You know, so if you imagine like what it costs to deliver English, for example, versus nursing, the costs are different. There are materials fees, there are equipment fees, program fees that are just different. And also to reflect the return on investment for the students. So in some disciplines, when you graduate, you will get a higher paying job, you know, within a year or 2 after graduation than in other disciplines. And so that's really kind of when universities move toward differential tuition models, it's those 2 things that they're trying to capture at a high level. And then of course, the other benefit of moving toward differential tuition is that you're simplifying the bills for students. And so it's no longer that you've got, you know, a baseline tuition rate and then lots of different course fees or academic unit fees. But, you know, if you're in this program, this is your rolled up tuition and fee. This is just what it costs. So I want to share with you some example models of what this could look like. I want to caution you, this is not exactly where we've landed right now, but I just want to share with you this example and then get some of your feedback on it. I've had meetings with the deans, I've met with the chancellor, I'll be meeting with the university budget committee later this week, and then of course meeting with you. And I think there's a lot of room for, okay, this might work, this might not work based on that feedback. In terms of the timeline, the implementation of this would be fall of 23. And at this point in time, you know, nobody would be grandfathered in. So the entire campus, regardless of whether you're coming in as a first-time freshman or a transfer student, or if you've been here, you would switch over to this model. The other question that's been asked of me is, how does that impact scholarships? And you know, at this point in time, any scholarships that students have or campus-wide scholarships that are given, for example, for students who transfer in or first-time college students, though we would continue to offer those types of scholarships. And then, you know, depending on the program that you're in, for example, if your scholarship is to cover a certain number of credit hours, it would continue to cover that. So let me just walk through with you what this could look like. Again, this is not the model that UMKC is adopting. This is just an example of models. And right now, each of the 4 campuses is exploring what makes sense for their campus. So one of the models that we've considered would have a freshman tier, and this would be a base rate, and that might include some of the costs that we currently capture through other fees. So for example, everyone pays an IT fee of $16.50 is what I believe it is per semester. That rather than having a separate fee for that, that would just roll into this base tuition. The other thing that we've been considering is we currently have a set of fees just for students in online programs. We have now moved to the University of Missouri system oversees instructional technology and support for faculty for all online and hybrid courses, but also for face-to-face courses. So for example, you know, most of you, I'm sure, use Canvas in your classes. I think the law school uses a different platform, but most of you use Canvas. And whether you're in a face-to-face class or an online class, the costs associated with that are the same. And so, what we're trying to consider is, do we build in some of those that are currently called online fees into this as well. And then a lot of institutions have 2 tiers or 3 tiers, where tier 1 might be those programs that don't currently have a lot of additional course fees. They're relatively, relatively inexpensive to implement in terms of, faculty salaries and equipment and supply costs. And maybe these are also programs where there isn't the largest salary when students come out. And then tier 2 programs are those where maybe there are a little bit more fees, and the earning potential maybe is a little bit more, or maybe the earning potential isn't a lot greater, but there just are more materials and supplies costs. And so you can think of this as programs like, studio art, and maybe more of the life sciences where there are lab fees, chemical fees, that type of thing. And then tier 3 are really just a handful of programs at most institutions, and I think that would be the same here at UMKC. They are the programs more like computer science, engineering, maybe some of the business programs. Another one that comes to mind are the undergraduate nursing programs. There are a lot of simulation fees that go along with that. And so the goal would be to just have these different tiers and then just have one cost of tuition. So I'm going to walk you through an example of what that would look like under our current model, and then what a differential model could look like. So an example, and I'm going to pull this from engineering and computer science, because I think this is the unit that has the largest fees overall as we've done these analyses. So let's say you were enrolled in 15 undergraduate credit hours. That's basically $313 a credit hour. So you're at $46.95. 2 of those are engineering courses. And so the current fee per credit hour for all engineering courses is $100. So that's an additional $600. And then you're in 3 computer science classes at $100 a credit hour. So that's an additional $900. And then you've got this campus IT fee at $16.50 a credit hour. So your total tuition, and I'm not talking about any of the student activity fees or student union, I'll talk about those in just a minute, but just for your courses and basic technologies like computer labs, that is $64.42. In a differential model, what you would do is you would say, okay, engineering programs or computer science programs are tier 3. So we're going to roll all of those, the tuition and fees, just into one rate. And the tier 3 rate might be, $429.5 or $430 a credit hour. And so in the end, the cost isn't different. But rather than being charged all of these separate fees, it just rolls into the tier 3 rate. This is a really simplified example, and I share that with you just to illustrate what it looks like on average. Because keep in mind, depending on your program and the specific courses that any individual student chooses, they might have more fees or less fees, as they progress through their degree program. But I just wanted to share this with you so you can kind of see what the traditional versus differential could look like. I want us to come back to this question in a minute, but this is really my question for you about differential tuition at the undergraduate level. From a student experience, how do you think this might impact students' interest in coming to UMKC? Do you think that they might see these different levels of tuition and think that's a good thing or that's a bad thing? How do you think it might impact enrollment behaviors? I'll tell you from my perspective, I'm really worried that students might say, I really want to be a business major, but I know that's a tier 3 program, so I'm going to enroll in something else instead because I know that it has a lower tuition rate. And so I certainly, we don't want that to happen, because we want students to be enrolling in those programs that really are the best fit for them and most align with their career goals. And then also, do you have any concerns about how this might impact student retention or persistence from year to year? So at the end, I want your questions. I want your feedback about this. And I really also want, just knowing that this is something that all 4 of the campuses are being asked to develop right now. For our campus, for UMKC students, what do you think is the best way to communicate out these changes when they do go into effect? For incoming students, it wouldn't be new, but particularly for current students, what questions might they have? What concerns might they have? So one other thing I do want to note here, because I know that there are some graduate and professional school students in SGA. Right now, we're just talking about this at the undergraduate level. I know UMSL, for example, is also going to be making some changes to their graduate rates. We may end up doing that, but right now we're just focused on the undergraduate piece. And then we have a very unique, as you're aware of, 6-year BA MD program, and that would not be a part of this. That is treated like a professional school, and that has a different tuition rate already. The second thing I wanted to get your feedback on was, at the same time that we're talking about really simplifying our tuition model, we are also having conversations about simplifying that list of auxiliary or ancillary fees, rather, that students pay. So I'm not talking about, your lab fees in chemistry or your other course or academic unit fees, but I'll show you on the next slide. I'm really talking about that list of fees that go to the union and to transportation and to libraries. What we'd like to do is to roll that into a student life 1 fee. And so the purpose of that is really to simplify it. Right now, we get a lot of questions from students about, why do I pay all of these fees? And of course, that we have answers for that. And each fee came from, a different set of needs, and originated at a different point in history. But what we do find now is that we have some fees that they really are for a fixed purpose, and over time, if the students wanted those to be used in a different way, or if we had different needs, we don't have a whole lot of flexibility to move those around. The assumptions underlying the concept of this 1 fee is that the annual budget allocation would remain the same. So as we're bringing in activity fees, for example, you would receive the same budget allocation for student organizations that you currently receive with those fees. But over time, if there is a new need that you recognize, you could work with student affairs and other university leaders to say, hey, we think that there needs to be more resources given to student health or to counseling services. We're aware that the city has changed their transportation fee, and this is one of the things that we're considering in this. The city no longer charges for city buses. Could we just shift that fee revenue over to support hiring more psychologists and counselors to support mental health needs of students? And at the same time, from a university lens, there are things that we see that we need to be supporting our students with services or supports. Things that oftentimes in universities there are fees for that. And being able to just have a 1 fee model allows us to move around those budgets as needed from year to year. You would still, of course, be able to have referenda for new initiatives, but one of the things that I think is important for us to all keep in mind, because I think we have a history, a practice here at UMKC, and I think at a lot of institutions, of voting on fees. That vote is really just a way to show student feedback. The chancellor and I don't even get to set fees. So we make proposals to the board of curators in the same way that, as SGA, you could have referenda for a new fee. But it's ultimately the board of curators that makes decisions about those. And so moving forward, we would continue to think about, like, on a year-to-year basis, are there new initiatives that the students really want a fee for? So I'm thinking about a couple years ago, and I know that it wasn't passed, but I know there was a lot of conversation about we need more support for mental health and counseling and wellness services. So those types of things, you know, there could still be an expression of need, and then we would bring those forward to the Board of Curators. And then just lastly, that in this model of a one fee, this really would apply to all students. So whether you're full-time and part-time, graduate or undergraduate, graduate and professional or undergraduate, this model would apply to you. And I point that out because, you know, I used to be the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies before I was in this role. And one of the things that I heard, and I completely understood, but I heard it, was, you know, why am I being charged fees for things that aren't important to me as a graduate student? They might be more important to undergraduates. I think, you know, at the same time, there are certain things that all students do take advantage of. And so I just want to be clear, and we apply this model to everyone. So this is what it could look like. Again, this is not final, but just as we've been exploring, you know, how do we bring in the same dollar amount in fee revenue so that we continue to have budgets for these things that are fairly consistent. And in particular, I'm thinking about things like, you know, the student union. We have debt service on that. So we have to be able to continue to generate similar amounts of fee revenue to pay down that debt. You know, ASIM, for example, that's a fixed cost. And so we've got to be able to continue to fund that. You know, the student activity fee, we want to make sure that we've got the same budget going to student affairs and to SGA so that you can allocate those dollars to student organizations. So the model, using this year's fees as an example, one model could be to have 3 tiers. So you've got students who are between 1 and 6 hours. There's just a flat fee for student life. And then between 7 and 12 hours, there's another flat fee. And then 13 or more hours, there's another flat fee. I will say we don't have the graduate writing fee built into this model. One option could be that it could go into this model, knowing that the writing studio really does support all students, even though a large portion of this fee goes to supporting the graduate writing specialist. It could be that the graduate writing fee is actually rolled into the tuition for graduate students. It doesn't change what people pay, but it just makes it simpler for people to understand their bills. So with that, my last question again, and I'll stop sharing, are just what's your feedback about this idea of just sunsetting our current fees and moving to a one fee for all of these things? And then if we do that, what's the best way to communicate those changes to students? So thank you.
Thank you for your time, Dr. Lundgren. Personally, I think that we'll definitely see an increase in enrollment for things that are projected to be lower earnings post-graduation, which I think would actually be pretty nice, because I think we have a lot of students who are in programs like the business school or in law school who are maybe only there because it's not exactly any different financially for them to go into those programs than another program, when they may actually want to go into something completely different.
And I will say, just keeping an eye on time, and I apologize because we've got, I don't know if you're aware, but that we are searching for a new CFO, and we've got our first candidate on campus tonight. What I had hoped, because I know this is all new information for all of you, is that I would be able to share this, and then you could discuss among yourselves, and then. Oh, that's okay. Report back to me either through Tim or through Todd, you know, what your questions are and what the feedback would be. So that way you don't have to spend time discussing it on the spot tonight, but just simmer on it, process it a while, and then you can get it back to me. What we need to do is have a general plan to UM system by March 1st. So, you know, we've got some time, and then we will spend the next year working through implementation. So again, this isn't impacting fall of 22, although the student life one fee model, we could implement that sooner, but that differential tuition, we're really looking at fall of 23. So thank you. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to your feedback. Have a good night.
You too, Dr. Lundgren. Alrighty. So I'm going to share for about 2 minutes at most. Let's see. Committee reports. Public Relations Committee Chair, Sagi Rudnick, Senator at Large. What is your committee report?
Thanks, Duke. So there's not really a big report today. The one thing is we are starting up committee meetings again. So if you're on the Public Relations Committee, that is going to be this Friday at 5. I'll be sending a Zoom once I get an updated list of everybody, because I know we have at least one new senator, which is very exciting on our committee. So that's exciting. Duke, what did you say? Sorry.
We have several new senators in general this semester. It's super exciting.
Yeah, no, that is definitely exciting. So it'll be good to kind of get to know the updated committee and just discuss housekeeping stuff. So that's my update.
Sounds great. Senate Resolutions Committee Chair Haley Prinz of the Collegiate Panhellenic Council. What is your report?
Hello. Last week, the Senate Resolutions Committee met for the first time of the semester, and we discussed informally the yearly concert tradition resolution after hearing some of the back and forth at the prior Senate meeting we had. So since it has not been formally submitted, we didn't come to a formal conclusion, but we just wanted to have our feet on the ground for if that does come up. And we found that we would like to have people talk to us about the money portion in particular, if that does come up. And I know we have 2 new members, at least that I saw through email. So I'll get you all looped in on our email chain.
Very nice. And Internal Affairs Committee Chair, President Pro Temp Brett Boyer, Conservatory Student Association. What is your report?
Hi, thanks, Duke. So I kind of have 2 big things for you all tonight. First of all, at our last meeting, we discussed the Constitutional Revision Act, and we voted on some changes. And then I know Quinn sent those all out to you a couple days ago, so you can all look at the specific things we voted on that are going to be included in the bill. And then tonight, we have our hearing for the 3 Supreme Court nominees. As an update to the committee, all 3 said they could attend, so we will be doing all 3 of them tonight. And as always, our meetings are open to the public, so if anybody would like to attend and listen, you can just message me privately and I will send you the Zoom link. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. I'm so excited to finally work on getting these seats filled. I'm very hopeful for these nominees. All right, action items, old business, follow form, link is on the agenda as always. New business. The Constitution Revision Act vote, followed by the Act to Increase at-large positions, first reading. And obviously, we've just had Provost Lundgren. Quinn, you have the final version of the CRA pulled up?
Yes, I do.
All right. Would you like to share your screen in order so we can see this?
Oh, this is awkward. I cannot share my screen.
What?
No, like the document, I can't see it on my end. Okay. Can everyone see this okay?
I can see it fine.
So basically to just fly through it, just for time's sake, the Constitution Revision Act is just fixing up any grammatical errors and inconsistencies, and you can find my last email, but if you need a refresher, this is not up to date. I apologize for that. We changed secondary council to organizational council because that makes more sense. And with the restructuring of academic units, that is reflected here. So this is the most up to date. President pro tempore has been changed to Speaker pro tempore. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the gist of it, and then some like other random inconsistencies like chief of staff and press secretary confirmation. With that, I yield the rest of my time and we can move on to the next portion.
All right. So it's been a hot second since we've had any legislation debate. So we've had it read for the second time. The Todd, can you please?
Point of order, it should be words of affirmation, words of negation, or abstaining.
All right. So do we have any proponents of this legislation or legislative proposal for affirmations?
I would like to speak a few words of affirmation.
Senator
Speaker.
Dang? Senator
Yes.
Dang?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Quinn for taking the initiative for working with me on this legislative proposal. And I just believe that going forward, these proposed amendments will make things a lot more clearer and should make us STA business run a lot more smoothly in the future. So yeah, I'm in support of this bill.
All right. Do we have any other proponents who wish to voice their support for the
Yes.
CRA?
I
Senator
would.
Rudnick.
Thank you. I would absolutely love to show my support for this. As noted there, I'm one of the co-sponsors because I really believe in this. It has been, like Duke said, a long time since we've addressed our Constitution, and I'm really glad that it's happening. You know, it's really great to see the initiative, you know, taken to really kind of look deep into, you know, how are we operating and what needs to change. And so I really want to thank Quinn and Christian in particular for your hard work on this. And I think we're very lucky to have you both.
Thank you, Senator Rudnick. Do we have any other vocal or affirmations? If we have no further vocal affirmations, do we have any vocal negations? And I suppose vocal abstentions, which kind of seems like an oxymoron to me, but so if memory serves correctly, since we are not seeing any further talk, I move to vote on the Constitution Revision Act.
I second the motion. I don't know if that needs to be seconded, but
I'm honestly not sure either. I don't think it did,
It
but
does. It
better to be
does.
safe.
Okay.
It
Okay.
does.
Well,
All right.
seconded.
Thank you, Sagi.
All right. Malavika, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Just a point of clarification, since this is the Constitution, it does need is it 2/3 or 3/4 majority vote?
It should still be 2/3 majority vote.
That's confirmed.
All right, so Internal Affairs Director Malavika, would you please conduct the roll call vote?
Yes. Arts and Sciences Student Council.
I'll vote yay.
Block School Student Association.
Vote to approve.
Vote to approve.
Okay, Collegiate Panhellenic Council.
I vote to approve.
Conservatory Student Association.
I vote to approve.
I also vote to approve.
Graduate Student Council.
Eli Fair, vote to approve.
I vote to approve as well.
Medical School Advisory Council.
Stephanie Kim, I vote to approve.
I vote to approve.
Multicultural Student Organization Council.
Approve.
National Pan, oh, I don't think we have. Pharmacy Student Council.
I vote to approve.
I vote to approve.
School of Biological and Chemical Sciences Student Council.
I vote to approve.
I vote to approve.
School of Computing and Engineering Student Council.
Reagan Dumb, yay.
I vote to approve.
School of Dentistry Student Council.
I vote to approve.
I vote to approve.
School of Education Council.
I vote to approve.
I vote to approve.
School of Law.
I vote to approve.
Sexuality and Gender Alliance Council.
I vote to approve.
Student Athlete Advisory Council.
Micaiah, this is you.
Okay, Student Council of Nursing and Health Studies.
Vote to approve.
Vote to approve.
And Senators at Large.
Vote to approve.
Vote to approve.
Vote to approve. Oh, vote to approve if I can vote, since this is my legislation.
I believe you can. I'm the one that cannot vote unless there's a tie. So if my count is correct, that should be 29 votes in the affirmative, 0 votes in the negative, and 0 abstentions.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Then, by the power vested in this legislation, the UMKC SGA Constitution Revision Act is passed and will now go to President Tim for signing ASAP. Now, Quinn, if you will pull up our next order of business with the act to increase at-large positions.
Yes, so this one is pretty straightforward as well. So as you can see with the restructuring of academic units and consolidating all the Greek organizational seats into one, we have a total loss of 4 seats. So in order to add those seats back so we don't lose student voices, I think it would just be best if we add those seats to the at-large. Please note that this will take place after the academic unit restructuring, which means that there will be 4 more at-large positions for starting the next academic year. But yeah.
All right, so this counts as the first reading. Let's see. Whereas the restructuring of academic units and organizational seats results in a total loss of 4 senator seats, whereas decreasing the number of senators would not be beneficial for SGA or the student body, therefore be it resolved by the UMKC Student Senate assembled that 4 more at-large positions be added. Therefore, be it resolved that the addition of the seats takes effect upon completion of the academic unit restructuring. Therefore, be it further resolved by the UMKC Student Senate assembled that the amendments drafted below be added to the UMKC SGA Constitution. All right. So that concludes the first reading. Quinn, if
Of
I can.
order, it should be open to questions now.
Do we have any questions, comments, concerns from the senators, particularly those who did not author or sponsor said legislation? As I'm not hearing any questions nor seeing any questions pop up in the chat, I think it is safe to say that we can send this to committee for the preliminary actions to be taken, and then see this at our next meeting to vote on it. So
Point
if
of
I
order,
could,
would you mind specifying which committee you'd like to send this to?
I do believe that this would best go to the Internal Affairs Committee. However, I know that you guys are especially booked for tonight and won't be meeting until after our next SGA meeting. So I can send it to the Senate Resolutions Committee if that is acceptable to you, Brett.
Yeah, you can send it to them and that'll be fine for us.
And it is settled. Haley, you will receive the act in your inbox shortly. And you'll be able to have it at your next meeting, which I believe is Monday, correct?
Correct, at 6.
Thank you. All right. Back to me. So we've done those. Officer reports. President Wen, what is your report?
Yes, so first I wanted to just echo what Sagi spoke about, really wanted to thank Quinn and Christian for your guys' effort. And I greatly appreciate you both offering different perspectives, including me with that process. It was kind of amazing to see that from start to finish. So thank you guys all for that. As we move, with the Constitution to be kind of more updated and new and improved. Secondly, as Brett will have and be leading that committee meeting later today, we have nominated 3 judges, one being an undergraduate representative, Kerrigan, and 2 law students to fill the open and vacant seats, Emma and Corbin respectively.
Thank you, President Wen. Madam Vice President Abigail Weiler, what is your report?
Hi, everyone. I hope that you're all having a great beginning of your week. First off, I wanted to say a great job to Jessica, our press secretary, on her newest newsletter. Make sure to check your emails and the SGA socials so you can view it yourself. And then on Thursday, I watched the Board of Curators meeting that took place for the majority of the day. They talked about a variety of things happening with our system, such as the capital projects at each of the 4 universities. COVID was brought up, specifically student concerns about how to effectively go back to campus in a safe in-person environment, but also just kind of returning back. That was brought up in addition to the importance of research and our graduate studies, which I appreciated hearing about since UMKC has such a vivid graduate studies program. They also went over the budget for next year, including the 5-year financial plan and a system-wide audit. So you can find that online along with the information about that meeting, and then also just the curators on their website. Just look up System Board of Curators, and you could either rewatch the video, it's quite long, or you can just find kind of the facts about it. And then lastly, I have a meeting scheduled with Kim Kushner on Monday to talk about our upcoming blood drive, which will be taking place on Thursday, April 28th. After that, I'll be updating with volunteer opportunities as well as how to sign up to donate for yourself. So I'll have that further in next meeting.
Thank you, Vice President Weiler. Comptroller Kyle Potts, what is your report?
So last week we had our first student activity fee committee meeting of the semester. And at that meeting, we approved $11,986.39. And then next week we'll have another meeting on Zoom.
Thank you, Comptroller Potts. And then Internal Affairs Director Malavika, what is your report?
Yeah, so in the near future, I'll be attending one of the first year council meetings, I believe, and I've heard from Quinn about that. And also another thing, thanks for sticking through the presentation at the beginning. I know that a lot of people left when we had a long presentation first year, and we have to count those as absences. So thank you to everyone who stayed. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Internal Affairs Director Rajaram. All right, I believe that concludes the officer report. So now I will bring us to an open forum. And especially as a way for us to talk about any questions, comments, or concerns about what we think about this differential tuition model, these proposals that the school is working on.
I'd love to start us off.
Senator Nick, you have the floor.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, I just want to talk about the oh, not yet. So I just wanted to talk about the whole differential tuition and specifically the one fee thing that the provost brought up. So me personally, I'm not a STEM major, I'm political science and communications. So that means I will probably end up paying either the same or less. So it would probably be a good thing for me. However, for you guys that are STEM majors, this is not a good thing for you. You will end up paying more almost certainly. So I think that is something definitely to keep in mind as hopefully the provost comes back. I'd love for her to come back and field questions. And I encourage for those of you who are STEM majors to ask questions, especially since you will be mostly affected. And then I think I'm divided on it because on the one hand, the flexibility of spending funds where we know we need them is definitely something we need more of. But something I'm worried about if it all becomes one student fee is I'm worried about lack of transparency from the administration, because one number, can obviously fluctuate, but when there's specific fees, we see what those fees are for. So I think it's kind of a mixed bag right now, and I would just encourage all of us to stay vigilant.
Senator Davidge, you have the floor.
I would like to echo what Sagi is saying. I'm an education major, so it is for certain when I graduate, I'm not going to be making a lot of money. So if I knew other education majors who were enrolling in the School of Education would be able to pay less tuition, I think that would balance out. And I think that's a great idea. I think differentiation is always important and something that will broaden our base and make us more palatable to the common person. As far as the Student Life 1 fee goes, I agree. It seems like a nice, convenient way to hide transparency and kind of cover all the fees under the rug. If it's just a matter of I don't like answering the questions about why I'm paying for fees that I'm not using, I think that's just par for the course. I think if you just chalk it all up under one name, one umbrella, it doesn't give students a lot of opportunity to see where that money actually goes. Thank you.
Comptroller Potts, you have the floor.
Yeah, so kind of talking about like Sagi's point with STEM majors, Provost Lundgren spoke with us last week and that actually came up, like talking about that. And the way she explained it, and at least what I interpreted it, was that STEM majors have like the base tuition the same as poli-sci or me in business, but they have extra fees and everything else on top of it. Well, we're getting rid of the fees and it should all kind of balance out to where they're paying the same with those fees as it is currently, maybe a little bit more, but she said it shouldn't be. I mean, it really should kind of balance all out at the end of the day. And then to the other point of not knowing where the money goes, I actually did ask her about that, if there would be a way for students to be able to ask and see where that money went, because I had the same concern. And she said they weren't fully, they didn't really know at that point. They said they're still kind of looking into all of that, and she wanted student feedback. So I definitely think if all these senators who are concerned about that email Tim or Todd to ask her about it, I think seeing that people care about that or want to know about that will definitely kind of put that in their radar to take care of that for people.
Senator Gott, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to keep echoing what people have said. I think the importance of some kind of report, some kind of itemized list be available to students is paramount in this. Without anything moving forward, if we don't know where this pool of money is going, that's just a slippery slope into some kind of classism among students, because then these tier 3 students are going to have the bulk of the funding because they'll want to have those students come in because they're going to be the ones that are making the school money. So these people that are tier 1, are they going to receive less of this funding, and are they going to have any kind of recourse to be like, well, this isn't right, why am I getting less? It just those are my concerns. So I think an itemized bill would have to be necessary, and yearly reports would have to be made so you can track the progress of what are we doing this year, what are we doing this year, so we can be consistent and transparent. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gott. Senator Petrosinski, you have the floor.
Thank you. My big question is there is a big discrepancy in the number of scholarships that are given. For example, for students who are bio majors, there are virtually no scholarships. And you're asking bio majors to pay a lot more for, essentially science majors and alike would end up paying a lot more for school. So is some of that money going to be transferred to scholarships? Because there are a lot of scholarships offered to those performing art majors and business majors. And there are even quite a few for chemistry majors, but a lot of students are bio majors. And I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those students who really had to kind of scrape the barrel to pay for school. So I'm just curious as to what that might look like in the future for those students.
Thank you. Senator McCarthy, you have the floor.
Thank you. So as a STEM major who's also pre-professional, I know that a lot of people aren't doing the traditional like biology or chemistry anymore. So I think that pre-professional students that are taking like psychology or English as their pre-professional degree, but they're also taking like the labs and stuff that you might be taking as like a biology or chemistry major, they would be paying less to take the same lab courses that we're paying the fees for. So, I mean, I think that's just something to consider going into this.
Thank you, Senator McCarthy. Samantha Lewandowski, you have the floor.
I think that it could be negative for the enrollment in our STEM programs because a lot of high school students, like prospective students for our school, I think if they are looking at UMKC and also other schools, if they're not as educated on tuition breakdowns, then they might view our school as being more expensive, even though it wouldn't be more expensive. But at an initial glance, they might think that.
Thank you. President Pro Tem Brett Boyer, you have the floor.
Thank you. I think if they want to move to this new system, I think as a lot of people have said, it's important to be very specific in how they do this, and they need to be very transparent about telling all students, the new students and the current students, about these changes and how the numbers will differ. And because I think this could create a lot of confusion, because if every school in this state currently operates under the same model, everyone's going to know how much like their credit hours, and you can compare, like, we pay 313 per credit hour here versus 400 at this other university. So I think with the system it'll be harder to compare like cost per credit hour, because I think that's that's what it all comes down to. And I think that moving to this new model will create confusion for a lot of students who are looking at the cost. And I just wonder why this really only applies to undergrads, because I think this will make it difficult. It just seems like it's going to be a lot more work for them, just because they're changing the undergrads and do all that, but then they're just going to leave the grads the same. So I don't really know why we're not going to do it consistently amongst all the students. So I think if we should do it, it should be one for the whole university and not splitting it up. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you everyone who's voiced their opinions on this. And I'm going to be sure to get Provost Lundgren a link to this meeting once it is uploaded, which I should have done in a timelier manner than I did for this last one. So that way she can see the feedback that we've provided here during our open forum. If we have no further items to discuss, I move to adjourn this meeting at 7:01 p.m.
Point of order, Duke, you should not be able to move to adjourn the meeting just because you're speaker. So I move to adjourn this meeting.
Seconded. Thank you, Quinn.
And this meeting is adjourned at 7:01 p.m. Have a good night. I will see you all in our next meeting.